Hey guys, we are excited today to come to you live from what they call, I think they're calling it still this day, the internet. And we've found this thing on YouTube where it does like a live channel. And so we're going to try this thing out a little bit here. Testing, testing. Am I on? Tyler, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay, we're on. And super excited today to have a couple of special guests in our 5th edition. This is the 5th time we've done this. Some great conversations over the past year. And hopefully they've been helpful to you, your youth leaders, your churches, and really spark some creativity, some ideas, maybe some encouraging things to help you keep going down the race. Because listen, the number one goal for all of us in youth ministry is to reach students. It's to help parents be better parents, ultimately make a connection with the school, that being our mission field, and to really change culture. And I believe we change culture through students, the next generation. And man, we're so proud of each of you youth pastors for doing that and joining that journey with us. So on the call today, got a couple special guests, a couple friends of mine. One of them is a longtime friend, did camp with him for a while. His name is Brendan Johnston, and Brendan is the youth pastor now for several years at Christ Church in Fort Worth. So Brendan, you want to take just a minute and say hello to everybody?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Big thanks to Kyle and North Texas Youth Alive for having me on. Excited about the call and hopefully some tools and stuff that we can give out to help you guys do better and go further in ministry.
Yeah, Brendan, why don't you just take just 1 minute and give us a quick victory maybe from the last month of your student ministry?
Quick victory. I guess the one that comes to mind the fastest is some of the stuff that we're doing on campuses. Students that we've been able to have conversations with. One student from Southwest High School band that actually has never been on our campus ever, but he was in one of his practices and told his mom that he thought he was going to have to quit band because he just couldn't make it through anymore. He's got some health issues that I don't want to get into that the doctor said, if you start getting fatigued, you need to quit because it's not going to be good for you. And one of my guys showed up with a Gatorade drop for the band. And when he showed up, the kid went to his mom and said, I don't feel bad anymore. My angel's here. And so he's looking at one of our pastors, one of our youth leaders as his kind of following him as an angel. And when he feels him, he says he feels energized. He gets a Gatorade from him, and he can keep on moving. And so he's told his mom that over and over again as well about the games and stuff like that. And so she actually started attending our church on Sundays with him, and she came and told us that story not too long ago. And it was just a big uplifting to us to realize that what we're doing really does matter. Even if we don't see them showing up on the weekend services or the Wednesday night services, some students' lives are getting touched because somebody's willing to do something different.
It's cool. Awesome story there, Brendan. And I know you guys are doing a great job reaching the campus over there, and very excited to have you on the call today. Our second guest is a good friend out in East Texas, a town called Texarkana, church called Northside Assembly of God, and is a good friend of ours. His name's Scott Tomat. Scott, why don't you just tell a little bit about yourself, and same thing as Brendan, share one of those stories real quick.
Oh, I am originally from Wisconsin and I went to SAGU and happened to end up in a town that I've never heard of until someone, pastor, contacted me. But biggest victory, my biggest passion, and one of the biggest things within our youth and young adult program is what we call the movement night. And it's basically a night for everybody in their 20s and teens from all different denominations and backgrounds from across the city to gather together and just worship God. The worship band is compiled from with people from all the different denominations and all the different churches, and it's just really cool to see a few hundred people just come out every few months. And even though we have different theologies and different backgrounds, it's just a time for us to focus on what we do have in common, which is Jesus. And it's just really cool. There's just miracles happening. I mean, people who were contemplating suicide that night, God just spoke through other people from different churches and helped them out. And it's just really cool to see the whole body of believers working together and not just assemblies of God.
That's cool. Awesome, Scott. Love that. That has a big Youth Alive feel to it, and I really like that. Hey, also on the call, we have one Tyler Harris. He used to be in North Texas and has been the last 6 months in New Mexico. Tyler, you want to say hi to everybody and just give us an update on your life real quick?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Tyler Harris. I am now in Albuquerque, New Mexico, as youth pastor. And what's been cool is I was actually, when I was in Dallas, full time, and I've now taken a bivocational position here, building a youth ministry at Harvest Albuquerque. And so it's been blast. We've been here about 6 months. My wife Natalie got a job. She's one of like the lead directors at our local Chick-fil-A, which is the most Christian thing that a pastor's wife could do, I guess, besides just be a youth pastor. So we've been having a blast out here. We have like the coolest team ever, and it's just been awesome. We actually just got done with 2 big events. We always do a theme night for our last October service. And so that was Lumberjack Bash. And then we went literally Monday night, because our youth services are Sunday night, and did our trunk or treat where we had over 1,000 people show up. And
Wow.
So our church is really only 200, 250. So to have that kind of impact in our community has been super, super cool. We're having an absolute blast out here, working our butts off, but happier than we've ever been. So it's been really cool.
It's awesome. Tyler, thanks for being on the call, and thanks for helping out and producing this great video that the masses of the world and the internet are going to view. And last but probably least, I am Kyle. I'm Youth Lab missionary to North Texas, and excited to put on this call. You're probably wondering, why are you in a suit today, Kyle? It's because I take my job serious. My job is huge. It's very huge. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I just want to say a quick prayer. And Scott is going to roll out some questions for us today. Brendan, myself, Tyler, we're going to interject and answer those questions the best we can to help you in youth ministry. So, Father, I just ask you now to touch the hearts and lives of the people watching and listening, and even those watching the recording. God, stir ideas, creativity, encourage them to do more to reach the students in their community. We thank you for a great conversation. In Jesus' name, amen. Scott, take it away.
Alrighty, I kind of broke up my questions, half or a little bit less than half for campus ministry, and then the rest just regular youth ministry. My first question regarding campus is, how have your students personally responded to you being on campus? Because when I was in youth, I loved my youth pastor. I love hearing him preach. I love hanging out with him at church and everything like that. He was a great guy. I loved him. However, just knowing me personally, if he showed up on my campus and was like, "What's up, Scott?" I would have been like, "Whoa, like, you're trying to eat lunch with me and my friends?" Like, it's just kind of weird. So I personally would have felt awkward with him sitting next to me and my friends while I'm just, trying to be social during the week. How have your students actually responded to seeing you, do whatever you do on campus?
No, it's a great question. And when I was thinking about it this afternoon, I realized something that I've also kind of discovered with having our second child. And let me help it relate this way. Our biggest motivation, our biggest purpose on the campus is twofold, because we saw that our greatest return of investment was to be in the 2 biggest groups on campus, one being the football team, and the actual largest group on campus was the band. And so we spend most of our time, energy focused on those 2 areas. And while we do have some students that are attending our Wednesday night services or our church that are involved in those 2 areas, the mass of our students, the big bulk of our students are not. But again, that's the biggest area that is untouched at our high school. So that's where we're spending most of our time. So back to my oldest daughter was really excited when my first daughter or my next daughter was born, until she started realizing that she was going to have to, we were going to have to allocate time. You can only spend some time with Waverly, sometimes with Willow. And my students have kind of done the same thing, where at first they're really excited. "Oh, you're going to be in my school. You're going to be in my school. You're going to be in my school." And then they're like, "Hold on a second. Why are you always with the football team? I'm not in football. Why are you always with the band? I'm not in band. Why don't you come over to the drama department? Why don't you come over?" And while we don't say, "No, we don't care about you," they see, wow, our school just said that you guys gave, $500 to get new jerseys to the football team. Okay, what are you going to do for the drama department? Well, we don't really have more funds to go in that way. And they just kind of have gotten a little hurt about saying, "Well, man, if you're not gonna, if you're not gonna come eat lunch with me, if I'm not the reason you're coming on the campus, then I don't know if I'm happy with you being on the campus." And it didn't last a long time, because that's when you have to re-preach what's the purpose, what's the reason. Do I really need to come and hold your hand in your classroom to make sure that you feel loved and appreciated, or do you want me to go out there and find disciples of students that are not serving Christ? And when you teach that to your kids, and when you train them that our purpose isn't just to high five you so that everybody thinks you're cool because you're youth pastors on campus, our purpose is to go out and find those areas where students don't know about Jesus, aren't serving God, and to try to get them to feel comfortable enough coming on a Wednesday night, or just having a conversation with you because they realize you are a Christian. And when you teach that to your students, then that whole entitlement, you're my youth pastor, you need to focus on me, you need to have come to my classes, you need to come to what I'm involved in, kind of shifts. And then we've seen a lot of students who now are going to football games they've never gone to before, sticking around during halftime and cheering on the band that they've never done before. And our students, plus students that aren't attending us, are being encouraged by our students that are now involved in those areas that they didn't care about at the beginning. But at the first couple of weeks, man, it was tough to answer those questions from parents and from students that are going, hold on, we go to church here, we pay our tithes here, so why are you giving money to my kid's school that's not actually going to my kid? And you're like, well, because we're trying to reach all the kids. We're trying to reach those that aren't attending our church. And it's tough. It really is. But I think our church and our pastors and our team of volunteers have done a great job. As long as you get those kids connected to the purpose, why are we here? What's the why? And when you teach that, it goes a long way.
Yeah. So, you actually kind of answered a little bit of my second question. And this second question is, what effect has your presence made on campus? And really, and I'll ask maybe for you to expand, but it's really, you've been casting a vision to your students, to your church. It's not, hey, we're just looking for our students and those are the only ones we're caring about, but rather, you're going on campus and it's affecting the whole city. It's affecting the whole teams, everybody there, not just your individual students. But has there been anything else in terms of your group? Have you been able to connect with their friends a little bit better? Have you had higher attendance ever since you've been starting to going there? Getting stronger bonds with the teachers that are there, with the community. What else has come out of this being on campus?
Sure. And obviously, I'm a youth pastor. At the end of the year, I have goals that are set for attendance and all sorts of other things. And so the first thing I'm thinking of when we go on campus and when we spend money on the schools and when we, try to create relationships is, man, can't wait to see these kids on Wednesday nights in our service so that we can count in our attendance and we can show these big salvations. But it hasn't been the huge attendance breakthroughs as far as, you have a big back to school event and you're expecting all these students to come back, and it just doesn't completely happen. Now, I will say, for the students that are in our youth ministry that are going to those schools, we've seen a lot of those students who have been inviting their friends over and over and over the past months, years, that have just said, no. Now they've seen us on campus, they've seen what we do, and we're getting a lot more yeses of those. And we're making relationships with our football team, our coaches, our band. But at the same time, we are in the hype of football season. We're in the hype of band season. So, we were showing up on Wednesday nights after they got out of football practice saying, hey, if anybody needs a ride. And we just had students that flat looked at us and be like, man, I have 4 papers I have to write. And you realize, man, that kid has been at school since 7:45 this morning. He got out of practice at 6:45 tonight, and he's got to show up at 7:45 tomorrow morning with all of his homework done, or he can't play in Friday's game. You're like, okay. So, I don't know what the full stretch is going to be once football season's over, once band has calmed down a little bit. That's why we continue to try to keep those kids involved and engaged, so that maybe when their time does slow down, they see Wednesday night as importance. But the cool thing is being able to have prayer with a kid at halftime that had a terrible first half and just goes, man, coach said I'm not starting the second half. And you're like, hey, well, you know what can we do? How can you be better? How can you work a little harder, do a little better? Or let's just pray right now for God to give you confidence and give you wisdom of things you've practiced. Having prayer with kids about family members, they see you and they realize, after a while you're a pastor and what you're supposed to do. And so you have a lot of kids that come up and just ask you questions about all sorts of stuff. I mean, my first time in the locker room at Southwest High School, a kid came up to me and said, "So what do you guys think about gays?" And I was just like, "Awesome." Tossing me a softball from the get-go. Sweet. What do you think? And so it was kind of one of those conversations that are opening up that would never happen if we just hadn't been there and shown up. So the attendance was I think every youth pastor in the world, you're not going to lie, you want to see that growth. But when that doesn't just blow up like you think it's going to, you have to look at, okay, what are we actually doing? And if we're not having any impact, then we need to rethink what we're doing. But if you do get those stories, if you do get those one-on-one times with coaches, I mean, we have coaches that email us prayer requests. We have coaches that call us and ask. We have principals now that are asking us, "Hey, what can we do for you guys?" So cool stuff like that just keep us connected. But if all we're focusing on is who shows up on Wednesday nights, getting on the school campus might not be the thing that's going to allow you to hit your goals at the end of the year, but you are going to have some of those tearjerker stories that will win your pastor's heart for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Scott, let me jump in there. I'd say for me and Brendan both, we're both kind of loud, obnoxious people. And part of that character for us is embracing the awkward, going back to your first question, and just, hey, it's going to happen. I remember when I was in high school, we threw like hamburger patties and the little pudding pops over at youth pastors coming in. We made fun of them. And now we're the youth pastors doing that. Kind of got to embrace it, embrace the awkward, relish it, and have fun with it at the same time. And then I love what Brendan's saying about the mission field. You got to view your school as the mission field. And sometimes when a missionary goes into a country, they don't win it overnight. It doesn't take 6 months. It takes years and years and years of plowing and praying, building relationships and all those things. And those seeds planted week in and week out on that football field or in that band hall or whatever, those will pay dividends long-term for those students, even though they don't show up in your church week in and week out. Brendan, let me ask you a question. Out of all you've done for that school and sometimes maybe not even seeing the total fruit you want, is it still worth it?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I will say, though we haven't seen, and we've seen probably 15% increase this year from students that weren't attending our churches that are from those two schools that we focus on, which is phenomenal. It's great. Of course, you're always hoping for, man, I can double my attendance overnight with this one back to school event, But what we have seen is we've seen families. We've seen families that are starting to attend on Sunday mornings that are hurting. We had one of the football coaches' wives, who he now works a second job on Sunday, but he told his wife, "You need to take our kids who don't even go to Southwest or North Crowley, they go to Burleson." He said, "You need to take our kids to that church on Sunday mornings." And so we've had families like that they see the impact that we're doing in those schools and in the community, and they start showing up because they realize there's a church out there that cares, that wants to be involved. And in reality, pastors can get upset about my numbers, but if I'm helping increase the size of the church and attendance on Sunday mornings, they actually get more excited about that than even if you're just doing really good stuff on Wednesday nights.
It's good. Scott, why don't you ask that third question?
Already, we're just going along with the campus. What kind of issues, blockages, roadblocks have you encountered trying to get in? Because I know just with some of the principals around here in Texarkana, some of them are like, "Yeah, man, absolutely. We want you doing this, we want you doing that," and then others are like, they're very closed off. It's like you can't do anything with that school. So, what kind of roadblocks have you had, and then how have you gotten past that, or have you gotten past that?
The biggest roadblocks that we've seen are honestly principals and assistant principals that have no clue about what the laws are as far as what I'm allowed to do, what I can do on the campus, and yet talk and act like they have a 100% definitive, no, there's no way, you can't even come on our campus. I don't even care if one of your students come here. I don't care if your child comes here. You're not allowed to be on here because you're a pastor. And they're just as bold as they can with the complete wrong interpretation of the law. And you can't do a whole lot with that. You can't, for example, first week of school, we were at 6 different campuses in the mornings, passing out donuts to students as they walked in. 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, and a 9th grade campus, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we had okayed it through the high schools, which are feeder schools from the elementary. We've okayed it through the ISDs, and we show up on campus. The first one we go to about 30 minutes into it, and we were about 45 minutes early, so it didn't hurt us that bad. The assistant principal just comes out and says, "Who are you?" And I say, "Oh, I'm Pastor Brown with Christ Church. We've adopted your high school and in your middle school. We're just here to pass out donuts, let students know about a big back to school event we're having, and we just want them to have a great first day of school." And she goes, "Yeah, you can't do that. Get off our campus. That's not allowed. The food regulations state that you can't do that." I said, "Man, we're not selling anything. We're giving away the donuts for free. No, you cannot do that. That is completely illegal. You guys need to pack your stuff and go." And while I could have stood there and been like, "You're 100% wrong, and I've already have approval from somebody over your head," and really made her get mad at me, I just said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. We'll try to get you in the loop next time we do something like this and make sure that we have it okay." Even though we already had, there were students walking by me, and I'm not going to have a fight with their principal on the front steps of their school to try and prove that I'm right and you're an idiot. So then we go to the next school, and the next school says, "Absolutely, welcome, come on in, do whatever you want." Awesome. Next day, we go to the first high school. "Come on in, do whatever you want." We go to the next high school, which has the 9th grade campus adjacent to it. We walk in. I walk into the principal's office, who I have a relationship with. She says, "We set up tables inside so you guys don't have to stand out in the heat. You're going to be in the hallways as the kids go to their classrooms. Here's one angle. Here's another angle." I'm like, "Awesome. I'm going to send my other group over to the 9th grade campus." She says, "Sounds great." We go over to the 9th grade campus. Principal walks out and says, "It's highly illegal. You can't be here. I don't know what she's telling you, but she's wrong. I'm right. You're not allowed to be here. Food and Drug Administration, blah, blah, blah." And I'm just like, "What? Your high school we've adopted, and your ISD has said we can be here. Your high school principal, well, she's not the principal over here. You can't be here." So what do? We pack up our stuff. We go back to the place that will allow us to be there, and we just keep on going. And since then, if they're that adamant, you can't talk to them. You have to talk to somebody who can tell them they're wrong. So you go and you talk to, somebody at the ISD. And the cool thing about that is that, man, the superintendent of the district wants churches to be involved. He invited us the next week, which those same people were in the room, which is kind of funny to us because we were just sitting there kind of smiling. Because I'm like, "Yeah, a week ago you kicked us off your campus. Now you're begging us to be involved on a daily basis on your campus." And those principals that kicked us off just kind of had to stand there with this half like, "Oh gosh, I hope he doesn't tell on me" face. And you just go, "Listen, we're not selling anything. We're not plotting anything. We just want your students to have a great time. We want them to feel loved." And just those are the hangups, that they don't know the information. You can't just hand them a piece of paper that says, "No, you're wrong." You just kind of have to continue to be there. And they're scared. That's the biggest thing. They're scared that they're going to get a lawsuit, that they're going to have some satanist group, even Christians. They're scared that they're going to have to open it up to some satanic group that wants to come up and, give away upside down crosses to every kid. And they don't want that to happen. So they think that the safest way to do that is to kick you off the campus as well. And Kyle probably has dealt with that even more.
Yeah, let me jump in here before we move to the next question. Scott, I think, and I'm going to give you a crazy answer here, I think the biggest roadblock and hurdle to reaching the school is the youth pastor himself. I know I've said it on these calls before, but there is going to be a way for you to get on campus, whether it's a Bible club, an FCA group. There's probably a way you can go to school lunches. Most youth pastors step back, and like Brendan said, they're afraid. And they use that fear to paralyze them from actually doing something. And so the biggest hurdle is yourself. And in that, being consistent. Will you go on a monthly basis, a weekly basis? I know youth pastors are all over this district right now that every Wednesday go to school lunches, every Thursday go to school lunches, and they're consistent with it, and that's the key. So to kind of sum that up, it's you. It's as big, it's as strong, it's as hot as you want it to be with that connection with the school. So
that's good.
Even to piggyback off Kyle, our biggest thing was that, and I told our pastor this going into it, when I met with the principals, or when I got to have that first meeting with a coach or whoever it was, the lady that was the receptionist at the front door, whatever, because again, you're adding value to the school. So how can I best add value to your school? whatever they asked me for, I had to be willing to say yes, and I had to get it done. So at Southwest High School, we came in with this great idea of what we wanted to do on the campus to add value. And his biggest thing, and I think it was just a trial basis, I want to see if you can do this, and not just just be about your church. He wanted to see, would you remodel one of our gazebo areas? And he mentioned it like 3 times in the meeting. And so I wrote it, and then every time he talked about it, I underlined it again and again and again and again and again. And he gave us semi-permission to do the other stuff. But that's where he wanted to know if I was really invested in what his vision. Because just like a pastor, they're not going to hire somebody that can't grab their vision. So he just said, this gazebo is kind of a big deal. It makes us look bad. So, man, that was the first thing we did. And when we did that, he pretty much gave us a key to the front door and said, do whatever you want. But you got to be consistent with whatever they ask you to do.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. On your transition on now to just like, our Wednesday nights and our youth group within the church. We have I don't want to say it's an issue, a problem. It just might be happenstance. I don't know. But our youth group has about 30 guys and then about 10 girls. And sometimes it's been more guys than girls. I mean, my wife, my one female leader, like they're great. I mean, they try to hang out with the girls, they text the girls, they contact them, and all the girls enjoy coming to the events. It's not like it's just, their parents are bringing them and that's the only reason they're there. But it's just there's never any growth within the girls. But it's just like all these guys, I don't know if it's just because we have, a basketball court and that's like, all the guys want to come because they can play basketball. But it's just like we have so many guys and then so few girls. And it's just like the girls aren't growing at all in numbers. But the guys just keep on going up. Is there anything that any advice to kind of help even, I don't want to say even those numbers, but, I just help the girls grow as well?
Yeah. I would say the first thing that came to my mind when I read the question earlier when I was prepping was if you could maybe find 1 or 2 more really good female leaders that could attract, or not, I don't want to say separate or divide, but move those 10 girls out from just being connected to your wife, because what can subconsciously happen, and I just found this out, not exactly with girls, but with different kind of cliques that begin to form in the youth group, is that if they've only got one strong leader, they're scared to bring in more girls because they're scared that they're going to take away from their time with that leader. And so what we've always tried to do is we've tried to insert a new leader, kind of like small group. When a small group gets to a certain size, it's not going to grow anymore because discussion can't happen and relationships can't keep getting built. And so we try to feed in a new leader and then at some point separate the group either naturally or just having to do it, divide the group, multiply the group into 2 groups, and then both groups begin to grow again. So with the girls, I would think, bring in one more female leader, even though it doesn't feel like you need it. You've already got a good ratio, one great leader in your wife to 10 girls, that's great. But if the girls are thinking, man, there's already 10 of us, if we bring another few girls, she's going to focus on them and not going to have time for me. But if you bring in another leader and now they've got 5 and 5 apiece, or however that natural split happens, you could see that some of those girls now open, okay, there's more time, there's more energy. Because, I mean, even with them going to hang out, your wife only has so many rides or so many seats in her car. She's only got so many, hours in a day. She's only got so many opportunities. Yeah. So you bring in that other female leader, it might, and I don't know, I haven't experienced, the first time I've ever experienced this ever. So that's all I can think is that you bring in maybe another key, really good female leader to give a chance for girls to connect with her. And then they'll start to invite their friends and they'll expand that. But yeah, that's a new one for me. I don't know, Kyle, you have anything, or Tyler?
Yeah, let me say this, and not to like push resume or whatever here, but I get to travel every week across North Texas, and I get to be in youth groups, and it's awesome. It's a great responsibility and privilege. And Scott, I see the opposite in most youth groups. So I see your numbers and I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Because most of the time it's like 10 boys, and 30 girls.
Yeah.
So typically in the church world, girls dominate the church. And so that's pretty exciting. You have a guy dominant youth group. So I would embrace it, and I would just let it kind of balance itself out, because I believe that it will. Now, obviously, that's just not throwing away your issue. There are things, like Brendan said, that you can work on.
Yeah.
But instead of being a negative, use it as a real positive to continue moving your student ministry forward.
Yeah. That's all I've ever heard when I ask people. They're just like, "Are you kidding me? We have just a million girls and no guys. Can we have some of them?" So I don't know where this culture shift happened. I don't know what it is. I'm not some cool dude that
No. It's because you're an incredible figure, and you're a father figure to so many of these guys.
Yeah. So
that's how you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Is you just straight up need to get cuter boys.
That's right. Yeah. You start in a youth ministry with pizza and 3 cute girls, and the guys will find the place.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have, but yeah, those are really good steps to just kind of, help the issue a little bit. Now, my next question, I wanted to word this one just correctly, but I have a few students in my youth group whose parents just love them, have the best heart. They love them so much that they just don't want anybody else to be pouring into their life. And not saying that's necessarily a bad thing to want to protect them. However, at the same time, there's a gap that's happening between them and the rest of the group. I mean, the rest of the group is going to the discipleship classes. They're in the culture. They're hearing the jokes. They're getting the inside jokes. They're growing closer together. I mean, we're lucky. Our group is really family oriented, and while the family's growing, getting closer together, and they're moving forward together, there's the few whose parents don't let them come to the discipleship classes because they don't want their kid to hear about this certain subject from me or from one of the youth leaders. And it's just like, how would you kind of help those students who are being overprotected, in my eyes, being overprotected by their parents? How do you help them catch up with the rest of with the group?
Yeah, the first thought would be to have an all-parent meeting, to where you're not isolating those few. Those might be the only parents that actually show up, because those are the ones that are ultra caring what you're going to talk about and teach their kids. And I would, you might even talk to them about the importance of having other voices in their kids' lives. Give some statistics about when kids go off to college, or when kids, separate, how and why they separate from their parents, the church. And you got to do this gently, but scare the parents into realizing that, if I'm the only one that's talking and speaking and training my kid, at some point I'm not going to be there, even though they have not realized this yet. At some point I'm not going to be there, and I'm hoping they have somebody else to connect with, or they've taken the opportunity to learn how to develop a relationship with a mentor. And you can talk about from your own life experience, hey, my parents were great, or my parents were bad or rotten or whatever. But still, like for me, my parents are great, but they still made a specific plan to insert men into my life that would speak life and hope and value and integrity into me, because they knew at some point I was going to be tired of listening to them, or I was going to need somebody else to also just repeat what they're saying. It's great to have, tell a parent, you're not doing a bad job, but man, how great would it be if I got to repeat those same things that you're saying, to just hammer it into your kid that, they need to be honest. They need to be responsible. They need to have integrity. They need to focus on goals and life choices. But yeah, do that parent meeting and just say, hey, you know what? I really want all of our kids to be involved in every activity we do. And if there's something, maybe you'll find out there's something that in your planning process, because some parents are really big planners, something in your planning process, something in the way that you're doing that they are not okay with. Like they could say, you know what? I need more details, and I'm not going to send my kid to camp unless I have more details, or whatever that process is. But you won't know that until you get down and you get to actually have a conversation with them.
Yeah, and I've tried, because I had like a parent meeting right at the beginning, and I told them certain subjects that we were going to have in our discipleship class. And I told them, I was like, I understand if you don't want your kids to be in this. However, I still think that this should be a partnership. Not only are you investing in them, I think you should be investing in them more than I am. You guys are the parents. They need that. However, to have that same voice, it would be great. And I'm like, I'm going to give you every resource. I'm going to give you my PowerPoints. I will give you verbatim my sermon or my discipleship classes, everything that I'm speaking of ahead of time, a week beforehand. So if you wanted to go over it with them, you can go over it with them first. And that way, you can tell them your side of it. If you disagree with something, you can let them know ahead of time. And yet they still, these specific parents, I'm from up north, so I might be rude, but I'm just like, they're living in a bubble, and they just like, I just want to pop it, but they're just not letting anybody into their bubble or to their kids' bubble. And I don't know. It's just difficult.
If I could chime in, just
yeah.
real quick. We've had, first off, for a parent meeting, the best resource I've ever had is by a little known guy named Kyle Embry, who did the wall. It was awesome. We used it, and it was really cool because it helped us walk through and connect with our parents. But since we've been in Albuquerque the past 6 months, we've made it our plan, our intention, everything to win the trust of our parents. And that's been probably the hardest part of my job. Is I've had youth ministries where my parents hate me, where they don't trust me, where they don't like me. They don't like me personally. And I'm just kind of going, I thought we were all Christians here. I thought we loved Jesus and all that. And it really took, once I've narrowed it down and figured out what in me I can do better, is setting up first. How can I win the trust of the parents? It's really funny how the process of getting a principal to trust you is similar to getting parents to trust you, because the principals are there trying to protect their children. Ultimately, that's really what they want to do. And parents are the exact same. So if you can get to a place where the parents not just trust you as a pastor, but trust you as a person, you winning their trust wins over the parent and gives their trust to. That's what every time I've met helicopter parents, the way that I've won their trust is I've won them. Not trying to win their students, not trying to win their kids, but just saying, hey, I just want you and me to work well together. I just want you, and I just want as a person in this church with you as another person in the church, to trust me and work well with me.
Yeah.
And a good way to do that quickly, that the late great Seth Wolverton, rest in peace, did was he actually set a sign-up card in the bulletin of his church and had it running on the announcements that said, I want to meet with you one-on-one. I want to meet with the parents of my teenagers. Here's when I'm available. And he just said, I'll take you to coffee. We can go have lunch, have a Coke with Seth type thing. And he met almost every single parent of the students. I mean, it's unheard of to do that. But you want to talk about conversations, and you get to hear what parents are truly scared about with their teenagers in those conversations. And you can give them the reassurance to know, all right, I know now, and I'm on your side, and you can try to sell yourself. But if you've already done the parent meeting and it's still not, that might be a drastic step that probably more of us should actually do.
Yeah, that's really good.
Scott, before you jump into the next question, let me just sum it up right here. All these guys, Tyler, Brennan, said amazing things, and I just echo what they say. But it all boils down to heart. So when your parents see your heart and your love towards those students, whether it's a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, a meeting, whatever, it's hard to go away from that. The late, great, really, David Wilkerson, he would always say his goal is to preach through tears. And I even take that into my communication style. When you have heart and it's through tears and it's through the brokenness of your life, parents going to have a hard time changing that. And so those mentors are definitely needed. So next question.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, our group has about 40 students in it, and I have 2 youth leaders as well as me and my wife. So there's 4 of us total, a guy and a girl. My youth leaders, they want to be more involved than what they are. Every single week, hey, do you have a job for me? What can I do? And luckily for me, I'm a full-time youth pastor. This is what I do. And I'm able to, for the most part, get everything done. I get my sermon done. I get my points done. I get, our youth room is set up, everything. And I have them preach every few months. I have them preach, let them do it. What else what other jobs can they do? I mean, we have a cafe, but about 3 kids get a Gatorade a night, and I don't want to be wasting their time, shoving them to the side at the cafe. Well, they could just be interjecting with the students. And I told them, I was like, really, all I want you to do is just love on these students, get with them, pray with them, talk with them, play ping pong with them, play basketball with them, just be with them. What other jobs is there for them to do? Because they want to do more, but I'm just like, I don't even know,
Yeah. There's only, so I'm going to be quick with these next couple of questions to be with our time, but there's only a few things that's available to do on a Wednesday night. Like you said, greeters, set up chairs. But what you might have to do is just go down a list of everything you do to prepare for a Wednesday night. Like everything, set up the chairs, doing the sound booth, even you talked about your sermon, everything, and just begin to think about not what do I need help with, but what could somebody else do with me? So there's a great pastor, and I don't know why I cannot think of his name. He did a conference not too long ago, and he said in his staff, when there's projects or things that need to be done on the campus, that if he walks up and he sees a pastor doing something alone, building a set, putting chairs together, he's doing something alone without a lay person there that he's doing jobs with, that guy's fired. Because he's like, I don't hire work hands. I hire people that are going to influence people. So what can you do in your job that someone can just shadow you or work with you or dream with you or create with you? And then if there's like, well, I only have, between 6:30 and 8:30 on Wednesday night or 6:30 to 9, but I want to do more during that time, then you maybe just turn it back to them. Okay, well, what else do you think we could do here that you'd like to see done? Would you like to create a new game that you're responsible for on Wednesday night that maybe it's going to take over? Would you like to revamp the candy store to where we provide meals and it's actually makes us money? Like, what would you like to do? Because some of them don't realize that you kind of have everything covered. And even though you tell them that, they're like, no, there's got to be something I can help with, because people are just energetic like that. So, okay, if you want to do something, you tell me, what would you like to do?
Yeah.
Something. Okay, cool. What? Come up with a job for yourself. Come up with a job. I'm giving you permission. Come up with a job for yourself.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, Brendan. Let me chime in here. Scott, I want you to think bigger than just the Wednesday night from 7 to 8 or 8:30. I want you to think bigger into the week. And I love what Brendan's saying about shadowing. But what if you turn these guys into responsibilities such as pre and post service? And I think Brendan mentioned that a little bit. What if you had them doing something crazy before service started or doing something monumental after service? What if they were in the adult area helping you recruit other leaders somehow? Think about getting them involved in schools. Maybe these guys become your extension and they go to school lunches for you or go to football games for you. What about small groups? Are you incorporating them in those? And then maybe you put one of them over just outreach or fellowship, or that. For me, when I was youth pastor, I had one guy that he would plan our monthly fun event. Well, what was the fun event? Mini golf, roller skating, paintball. I mean, whatever you do for fun, right? Ride on hoverboards, go get spray on tattoos or whatever. Give them responsibilities outside of Wednesday night. And I think when you think bigger than that, you'll find that you're not going to be just worried about 2 leaders. Yeah. You're going to want about 10 more leaders.
Yeah.
Tyler.
Oh, I was just going to add to what Brendan was saying is that but I heard it best from Chris Durso up in New York, where he said that same kind of thought was was don't do it alone. So he would, if he's driving somewhere, he either has a student with him or an intern or one of his leaders, and so that way if they're driving down the street and they see a teenager, he's got cards for his youth group in his car, and he'd like, they're at a stoplight, so go give them a card. So simple stuff like that. And I think it ultimately comes down to the foundation is, are you giving your leaders tasks or responsibilities? If you're not tasks, or are they bought into the vision? If they're responsible for something, they know what to do and how to do it, and will never run out of work. If you're just giving them tasks, if you're just saying, hey, set up the chairs, they're going to set up the chairs and then come back to you for what's next. But if they're responsible for an area, or this is their position, their job, they own it, they'll never be without a task or without a responsibility to do and handle anyways.
Yeah, that's good. Last question, just because of time-wise. How can you tell a kid who just has a passion for singing, a passion for percussion, a passion for guitar, that they are not supposed to be up there singing? Or because we have our worship team, and one of them, who is an insanely good guitar player, he cannot sing, and he wants to so bad, and he's like, well, maybe when so and so leaves, he graduates, maybe next year I'll be the lead singer. And I'm just like, man, I haven't said anything to him. I've kind of just pushed off the question, and have tried to start having our young adults help us with worship before they leave to go do their service. And so it's just like, kind of cover that up. But at the same time, I know there's going to be a point to where they're just going to flat out ask me, hey, can I lead worship this week? How do you tell them no without hurting their feelings? Because I'm not good at that. I'm blunt. I'm direct. I'm just going to say, hey, you can't sing. And then they're going to leave the church. Their parents are going to leave. And it's just going to be a big mess.
So you can't tell them that they're not good at something they want to do without hurting their feelings, but you have to do it anyways. There is definitely a better way to do it than just saying, so you suck, right? Like you're just kidding. That's not, and they're just gonna be like, what are you talking about? Like, I've recorded myself, like I'm about to put out a CD, and you're like, oh gosh, yes, can I get a copy? No, the best way is so you sandwich the bad news. Obviously, you give them the good stuff. You're an incredible guitar player. You have an incredible heart. Then you sandwich in the bad things. I think that's more of your gift than singing. I'd love to help you, maybe find some people that can help you with that, but I just don't know that you're quite at the level that we're going to want for a worship leader, and then sandwich it with another compliment. But again, man, if you're willing to work hard and you're willing to train and get better, I believe that if you work hard enough, maybe that will be something in the future. But again, I don't want to lose what you already are so good at, which is that guitar. I don't want to lose that just because, I don't see the strength being present in this other area. But again, so much of our culture is they want the soft and easy lie more than they want the harsh and brutal truth. And that's not the kind of youth pastor I am. I'm glad that you said that's not the kind of youth pastor you are. I'd rather be really brutal and honest than savor a kid's feelings for them to show up on American Idol and everyone in the nation making fun of them a year later. So I'd rather them hear it from me, because hopefully they know that I actually do love them and I want the best for them, and I don't want them to be made fun of, and I don't want them to feel insecure. So why don't I just tell you what you're good at?
Yeah.
And you take that for honesty. And if some of these kids it's going to motivate them to really go out. Well, you know what? I'm going to prove him wrong, and I'm going to do that. And man, go for it. But I'm going to keep telling you if you suck, and I'm going to do it nicely. But I'm going to have them mute your microphone until you prove to me that you can sing.
Yeah.
But try the sandwich approach, good, bad, good, and then just let them know I'm not going to try to savor your feelings by telling you a lie. I want to be honest with you just as you'd be honest with me. And I just don't see this as the gift that you could be using right now in this ministry.
Yeah.
It's good. Tyler, why don't you jump in here? You help us finish off.
I am the exact same thought process, and my wife has had to help me a ton, because She gets on to me all the time because I have such a harsh, like I'll just walk up to, I've done this before, don't do it, and just said, hey, you should stop singing. I have, like, if we're at a district event or something, or at some conference or anything, and I'm standing next to somebody who can't sing, but they're worshiping with all their heart, I have to look at Natalie and go, I have to move somewhere else because I can't handle it. I am not, I had no tact when it came to dealing with this. And so I've had a couple of times where I've had to say, dude, this just isn't your calling. This isn't where you're supposed to be. I know you want it to be, but I couldn't do that without, number one, the relationship, and number two, without giving them something that I think they could find success in. So every time I did it, but dude, I've seen you act. You're one of the best actors in the world. Like Brendan said, I've seen you play guitar so stinking well. That should be your focus. And so I think that's really how you have to approach it, because you can't just let them get up on stage and belt their heart out, and you wouldn't have anybody come back.
Yeah.
You know, people would stop showing up. It happens. And so that's awesome. Brendan, I feel like you've tried out for American Idol before and embarrassed yourself.
Well, nobody was willing to be honest with me when I was a child, and it's a harsh truth to face people that are actually don't give a rip about you and just tell you that you suck. So I don't want that for anyone else.
It's awesome. Hey guys, let me just sum it all up. And what you're saying is in through all of these questions, Scott, Brendan, Tyler, it's all about relationships, having a good enough relationship life, telling the truth, having a good enough relationship to go to a principal or a teacher and make an impact on the campus, having that relationship with your pastor to work through your weaknesses and failures. And so ministry boils down to relationships and our genuine love for people. And my prayer is, just as we wrap up this call, that God would give us as youth leaders and ministers across North Texas a love for people, a God love and a heart for people, because that transcends into any of these questions we're asking about. And so just we sum up today, I just want to say thanks to Scott, thanks to Brendan, thanks to Tyler for all making this last hour a part of your day and giving us wisdom and advice. Scott, great questions, and I know they're going to help a lot of people along the way. So let me just pray quickly for you as we kind of close this call. Father, I just ask that through this wisdom and advice that it would pour out into the hearts and lives of people, and that we would love you with all our hearts, and that love would bleed over into loving other people. Father, give us that Christ love, and help us to have success in all areas, Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, throughout the week in the schools, and in the moments we're with those students in their individual lives. Lord, I thank you for this time, and bless our ministers in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.